All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got some new videos right here and right now. Yeah, video of Renee Nicole Good in her SUV vehicle. Yeah, when she was confronted by ICE. And she, what I heard was she said, "I'm not mad at you. I don't hate you."
Video from the fatal shooting of a woman in Minneapolis by an ICE agent. For the first time, we are seeing the moment dividing the country captured on the ICE agent's cell phone. In this video, you can see Renee Good behind the wheel just seconds before her death.
It's new video recorded by the ICE agent showing what happened in the moments before he shot Minneapolis mom of three, Renee Good. The agent gets out of his vehicle and walks around Renee Good's SUV. That's her in the driver's seat.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad.
Good's wife is standing in the street, also recording, seemingly taunting the agent.
I said go get yourself some lunch, big boy.
Then the agent walks to the front of the SUV again, and that's when it happens. Renee Good hits the gas. The agent is jostled, and he pulls the trigger. The video was recorded by the ICE agent on his cell phone and depicts a clearer picture of what went down.
It sounds like the car strikes the agent.
We showed the video to former NYPD officer Darren Porcher.
The officer's tactics were flawed because he would be trained to move away from the vehicle as opposed to stand in front of it. Deadly physical force, such as firing your firearm, would be a last resort.
We're also learning today that Good and her wife followed an anti-ICE group, Minnesota Ice Watch, on social media. Last night, the late-night comics got serious, blasting the Trump administration.
The message from this administration is clear. Only they determine the truth.
Jimmy Kimmel was blasting.
And when their forces come to your city, obey or die.
We're to believe this woman was a terrorist committing a terrorist act?
Sports personality Stephen A. Smith says he doesn't believe the ICE agent will face charges.
Don't expect him to be prosecuted. He was completely justified. From a humanitarian perspective, however, why did you have to do that? You didn't have to do that.
No, I think what Stephen A. was talking about is like, I think he's speaking true and saying, will he face charges? No, because he's an ICE agent. They can do whatever they want. Do I think that he believes that ICE agent? Hell yeah. I think he believes that. But he's speaking true. He won't be prosecuted. No, that ICE agent will get to his job. He can do what he wants, and he'll probably just go out there, do it again, and kill another unarmed civilian just like that. That's one thing he's getting at.
Here by Vice President J.D. Vance reveals a new angle of the shooting of 37-year-old Renee Good, the woman killed by an ICE officer on Wednesday. Now, a source says the new video comes from the ICE agent who fired the fatal shots. His name is Jonathon Ross, and we want to show you the video in its entirety, but a warning, you might find it disturbing.
To us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? I said go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Now, J.D. Vance shared this video on social media along with the message saying, quote, watch this as hard as it is. Many of you have been told this law enforcement officer was not hit by a car, was not being harassed, and murdered an innocent woman. The reality is that his life was endangered and he fired in self-defense. Let's bring in CBS News senior coordinating producer Anna Schechter. Anna, we now have seen two angles of this shooting, one from a bystander, the other from the perspective of the officer who fired the gun. What do these two perspectives tell us, and what stands out to you?
Renee Good, she
Well, it's really challenging to make a definitive determination and to get inside the mind of that ICE agent who fired the shot. The
And you got people
three
going,
angles that we
ICE
saw
agent is a
yesterday,
hero.
that
For
emerged
what?
yesterday on social media, and that
for unaliving
officials
Renee
were
Good? Okay.
posting to X, etc.,
If you
that we
think
were
that, you're a
watching,
hypocrite.
were a little bit more removed, and it looked from that angle to a lot of people like the driver was pulling away. However, officials like Kristi Noem, Donald Trump, and even eventually Tom Homan, who walked back initial comments where he was saying, whoa, let's let an investigation play out, they immediately jumped to the defense of the ICE agent. So that might cause a little bit of a challenge to the public to completely, who are critics of this administration, to believe what the findings of an FBI investigation that is underway. This new video is really important because it shows the perspective of the officer. It's interesting to note that he even chose to take out his phone and start recording. But it is not a complete, definitive whole picture. Even watching this, it does appear to show that he is impacted by the car. What's interesting, though, is we don't hear a clear gunshot, which is really loud. You hear it on the others, and it's probably just the way that, because of the impact of the vehicle, or I'm not sure why, actually, but you don't hear it on this video. But it certainly, now we have a little bit more perspective, and we also have identified the wife of the victim engaging there with the ICE agent, so that paints a little bit more of a picture. So I think we're still slowly putting the pieces together. From my perspective, we do investigative reporting here. We take our time. We look at all angles. It takes time to put things together and make a determination, and that's what ultimately a court would do, make a determination about whether the action that the ICE agent took was reasonable or not, Liz.
I want to talk a little bit about a court and also a potential trial. The investigation into this shooting is now solely being led by the FBI without the help of state and local experts. How might the FBI's takeover shape this investigation, and could that impact future legal proceedings in the possibility that this case does indeed go to trial?
It's such a great point, Liz. There are nuances here. So generally what would have happened is the FBI would take over as the lead since it's so high profile and it's a federal agent involved. But usually the state agency would support. And in this case, it's the Minneapolis Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. This is an office that has a history of conducting investigations thoroughly. In fact, we've covered their work. There have been some high-profile things playing out, including the murder of a state lawmaker in just the last 12 months. So generally, that agency is going to support, and there's a coordination. Even like a federal prosecutor might talk to a district attorney, and in this case, it's the Hennepin County District Attorney. But there's been such a breakdown in trust and communication. This is highly unusual. And so now, since the state investigative body has essentially, they're saying they don't want to be involved because they've been blocked from accessing key information, that might make it challenging. However, I reached out to the Hennepin County District Attorney today because I immediately thought, well, wait a minute, what are they really going to do? And they did put out a statement that they want to exercise their right. They're going to do what they feel is right, and they want to do their own type of an investigation. It remains to be seen exactly what that will be, but this is all a very fluid situation, and a woman lost her life. So in this instance, a thorough investigation is key. And I think that's what the public will demand, and it remains to be seen how this will all play out.
Yeah, and I'm curious, from the get-go, almost immediately after this shooting, you had high-ranking government officials like Kristi Noem, Vice President J.D. Vance, immediately saying that this ICE officer acted in self-defense, that he was being threatened, his life was at stake here. How might that dialogue and those statements being made to the public, either on social media or on press conferences, is that going to have an impact eventually in this, if this does go to trial?
For unaliving Renee
Nicole. Let's say
Good.
The Hennepin County District Attorney chose to file a charge. that might be taken into account, and the district attorney might present that as evidence that the FBI couldn't conduct an independent investigation. But let's also look at the other side. You also had the mayor come out and local officials come out and declare that the ICE agent murdered the woman before the investigation was complete. So that is very tricky, and I would tell you that probably no prosecutor wants any of these statements out there on either side because they don't want the legal process to be put in jeopardy. We have a court system, imperfect as it is. It's still what we have, and it's important that we honor the process in this case.
Anna Schechter, thank you so much.
About the ICE officer who shot and killed Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis. He was involved in another incident last summer where he was dragged about 100 yards after getting his arm trapped in a vehicle while trying to make an arrest, according to court documents. The officer in the June case is identified in court documents as Jonathon Ross. A senior Department of Homeland Security official confirmed that case involved the same officer who shot and killed Good this week. According to court records, in June 2025, Officer Ross punched through a window to open the car after the driver refused to lower his window or open his car door. Authorities say that driver was a convicted child sex offender and was in the country illegally. As Ross reached over the broken glass to unlock the car, the driver started accelerating and dragging the officer, according to documents. Ross then fired his taser at the driver, and the driver kept driving as Ross screamed. Ross eventually broke free of the car and fell to the street. Images from the court filing show Ross with more than 24 stitches on different cuts on his body. Last month, the jury convicted the driver of using a deadly weapon to inflict injury to an officer following a trial. During the trial, Ross testified that he pursued fleeing suspects previously and said they do erratic behaviors, they take great risks, they make just extreme movements with their vehicles. Officer Ross has 10 years experience with ICE, a senior Homeland Security official told CNN. He's a U.S. Army veteran who deployed to Iraq with the National Guard from 2004 to 2005, according to his own testimony. DHS says the officer has had advanced training in perimeter control, advanced firearms training, and hostage rescue. He's also maintained an expert marksman qualification on
video today showing the moments leading up to and during the deadly shooting in Minneapolis involving federal agents. Behind the driver's seat of the maroon SUV, you see Renee Good. The video is believed to be taken by the ICE agent who fired the shots. Officers telling Good to get out of the car. She backs up, then forward, and shots are fired. The Department of Homeland Security says the ICE agent who fired the shots was hit by the car. Good was killed. In a statement to NPR News, her wife Becca Good saying, "On Wednesday, January 7th, we stopped to support our neighbors. We had whistles, they had guns." The mayor today responding to those who say his city is dangerous.
We've only had 2 shootings. One of them has been ICE. We are a safe city. ICE is making it less so.
Minnesota's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension says it has been cut off from the investigation into the shooting, leaving the FBI solely in charge of the case.
Our goal must be to ensure that a thorough investigation is completed at the local level so that our community can have transparency.
Law enforcement officials tell ABC News the agent involved is Jonathon Ross, a 10-year veteran of ICE's Special Response Team. Vice President J.D. Vance saying on Thursday that the agent has absolute immunity.
I can say that the ICE officer does not have complete immunity here.
Here in Minnesota, the governor called for a day of calm and unity. And in that statement today, Renee Good's wife said she is pure love, pure joy, and pure sunshine. Armando Garcia, ABC News, Minneapolis.
I'm national correspondent Kayla Gaskins in Washington. The investigation into the ICE shooting in Minneapolis is taking a new turn as we learn more about the victim. Federal sources say Renee Good, the woman shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis this week, was involved in a, quote, ICE watch group that trained members to interfere with ICE monitoring and sometimes attempting to interfere with President Trump's nationwide illegal immigration crackdown.
You have a woman who is trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. I can believe that her death is a tragedy, while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe against our law enforcement officers.
This picture of Good is in sharp contrast to those who knew her.
A neighbor who, is not a terrorist, not an extremist. That was just a mom who loved her kids, loved her spouse.
Critics supportive of Good insist the ICE agent was not in any danger and wasn't justified in firing at her.
Give me a break. No, he was not ran over. He walked out of there with a hop in his step.
Legal systems widely recognize vehicles as potential deadly weapons, with investigators looking at speed, direction, and intent to determine whether deadly force is justified.
You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy.
In this incident, video from social media, including footage purportedly shot from the agent's phone, shows the SUV moving in the agent's direction before he fired. Investigators say all of these factors will be closely examined as part of the ongoing probe. The agent, identified as Jonathon Ross, was also previously dragged and injured last June during an attempted arrest, illustrating the risks the Trump administration says they face during operations.
Right now, immigration and customs enforcement officers are facing a 1,200% increase in assaults, a 3,200% increase in vehicle rammings, and an 8,000% increase in death threats.
In the wake of the shooting, the FBI is now investigating the funding of the protests. The New York Post reporting the parent organization of one group behind the protests, Indivisible Twin Cities, received millions of dollars in recent years from liberal billionaire George Soros's Open Society Foundation. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Also breaking this afternoon, there is new cell phone video taken by the same ICE agent who fatally shot a woman in Minneapolis. CBS News has obtained this video and a warning that you may find it disturbing.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad for it. Show your face. I'm not mad. It's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
We are told this video came from Jonathon Ross's cell phone. He is the ICE agent accused of shooting Renee Good. At the start, you can see Ross is in front of the stopped vehicle. Good then speaks to Ross through that open window saying, quote, "That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you." As Ross walks around the SUV, the victim's wife confronts him while holding his cell phone. Then another agent is heard ordering Good to get out of the car. That is when she turns the steering wheel and pulls forward. This video was posted on the conservative website Alpha News. Then Vice President J.D. Vance reposted it to X, saying it proves that Ross fired in self-defense.
News outlet. In it, Renee Good can be seen sitting in her car, blocking the road and smiling at the officer approaching her. Let's listen to what happened next.
Every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
State officials in Minnesota are deeply unhappy that the FBI has taken over the investigation into the killing, shutting them out. Our U.S. editor, Anushka Astana, is at the scene of the shooting in Minneapolis. Anushka.
Well, that video has led to more polarised debate about exactly what happened here. The Vice President, J.D. Vance, is not waiting for an investigation. He has posted it and argued that it showed the officer's life was endangered. Others say Renee Good looked totally unthreatening. Now, we have learned more about the agent at the heart of this. He was injured by a vehicle last year which had a fleeing suspect in it, and he was very experienced, 20 years in Border Patrol and ICE. Meanwhile, we've been sent emails from lawyers, immigration lawyers in the area this morning who say ICE agents are turning up at their workplaces. One woman who was 37 weeks pregnant has told colleagues that she was threatened with a chemical spray this morning. Others describe ICE agents in the corridors of immigration courts. And look, the city is bracing itself because they know that more officers are headed here now. A raw cry of resistance, fury, ever since an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Good in Minneapolis. This is the front line of a culture war, with federal immigration agents storming not just these protesters, but American cities. And this upside-down US flag, once a sign of military distress, now a symbol of anguish among Donald Trump's opponents.
This is my city. We've gone through so much here because this is what this country is. And I can't sit home. I can't sit home and feel hopeless. I would come here and swear and yell. And
I haven't even been able to sleep last night, to be honest with you. Seeing ICE shooting an innocent woman in the head, in the face, it feels like we're in a war zone, really.
Like you're in a war zone.
Exactly.
Anyone who include the press trespassing on federal property is subject to arrest.
You can really feel the tension here. There were arrests earlier. There are dozens of Border Patrol and ICE agents just there. They've just ordered everyone to step back off the property or risk being arrested. But the protesters here are furious. They are angry about Renee Good's killing, and also because they've been told 2,000 more agents are coming to this city.
If you trespass on federal property, you will be arrested.
As dusk turned to night, the protest grew. In Minneapolis, then Portland, where Border Patrol officers shot and injured 2 people in a targeted vehicle stop. Thousands came out in Philadelphia too, blaming Trump's policies for Renee Good's death. In the White House, they point to something else.
A larger, sinister, left-wing movement that has spread across our country, where our brave men and women of federal law enforcement are under organized attack. Organized attack.
They are not treating the people like human beings.
This week has been traumatizing for Maimouna Mahmoud, living in Minneapolis for 2 decades with an American husband and 3 American children. Having the right immigration documents didn't stop her being pulled over by unmarked vehicles and taken by masked agents last month.
I feel like I get kidnapped. I'm telling you the truth. I feel like I'm kidnapped and I'm not going to see any more of the world. I asked them, why are they arresting me? He told me, you don't remember? Trump said that Somalian, you have to arrest Somalian. That's why they bring you here.
Minneapolis is not just the city of George Floyd and now Renee Good. It is also the target of Trump's relentless attacks on Somali Americans. Maimouna spent 2 weeks in a tiny prison cell and is now terrified that more ICE agents are coming in.
Everywhere is scared now.
Has it changed how you behave?
Yes, it scares. I don't go work. I don't go out.
You don't want to go out of this house?
No, I'm at home 24/7 because if I go out, anything may happen and I don't want to risk my life.
How much has it changed your life?
100%.
Her husband, Abdulaziz, is a naturalized citizen, just like Donald Trump's mother, he says, with children born in America.
We all immigrants.
And we come here a reason, because America was a great country. But now I'm not sure if that's what we can say.
Maimouna is one of so many in Donald Trump's America. Her immigration lawyer, Stephen Thal, has never seen anything like this.
Yeah, the assault that we've seen of not only undocumented immigrants, but also even legal immigrants is unprecedented, even under the Trump 1.0 administration. And each day that, these policies change, we kind of think, well, can it really get any worse? Well, it has, unfortunately.
Once again, tragedy has inflamed a debate about federal power in America, a power that is starting to feel increasingly unrestrained.
Well, joining me now is John Sandbeck, who was the acting director of ICE under President Obama from 2013 to 2014. John Sandbeck, thank you very much for coming on the program. I'm sure you've seen that body cam video from the ICE agent who shot Renee Good. What did you make of it?
Well, I think for me, it just reinforces the need to refrain from making any judgment until we can do a full and thorough investigation into this. Unfortunately, some of the administration leaders, the vice president, the secretary, have rushed out and said this is a clear-cut case of an assault on an officer who is, acting in self-defense. But look, the proper protocols are you refrain from making any judgment so you can evaluate the totality of the circumstance. And of course, as we look at each different video, I think we get a different perspective on what happened, and just reinforces for me how critical it is that we do that thorough investigation.
Because clearly what's happening is that the video has been used by both sides to confirm what they were already thinking. And it's so extraordinary, is it not, that the vice president, literally minutes after this thing was released, should put it on social media and say, here's a piece of evidence for my case.
Yeah, that's really, look, it's unprecedented for first of all, for the vice president to be weighing in on something like this, of course, but for the idea of senior government officials to be quickly concluding these judgments at all, right? The typical protocol would be that whenever there's an officer-involved shooting, that it is mandated that there be an investigation. And typically what you would see is the secretary, or if the vice president chose to weigh in, the vice president saying, we're going to refrain from making judgment until we can continue that investigation. Yeah. The problem is that everything in immigration space here in the United States has, of course, become so politicized. And now we're at the point where something that would never be considered but would be considered a law enforcement incident that deserves a full and thorough investigation has now become a political football where quickly we're trying to take, draw lines and take sides.
I mean, let's call it what it is. It is the weaponization of law enforcement, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if I'd be willing to go that far, but I certainly would say that we have politicized immigration enforcement in this country has always been very political. There's no other area of law enforcement in the United States that isn't as, infused with politics as is immigration enforcement. The truth is we're a country that's divided on what to do about immigration. I think there's bipartisan and widespread support to get bad actors off the streets, but of course that's not what this is really about. This is about, do we want undocumented immigrants or not in this country, and that's something that we're conflicted on here. Of course, it's become supercharged under this administration. This is a top priority for the president of the Trump administration. They're doing this mass deportation effort. You have these very overt and public enforcement operations, and unfortunately, a byproduct of that are going to be incidents. I'm not saying that played a role particularly in this one. Every case is different, but just writ large, a lot of these incidents are a byproduct of the tension that's happening in the country right now.
Do you think ICE has become too powerful, too well funded? I mean, some people are describing it as almost a sort of private army at the behest of the president.
I have concerns with the way the administration is deploying ICE, and we could talk about that. Listen, ICE serves a valuable function in the United States. There are bad actors in this country, convicted criminals who have no immigration status, and the idea of having an agency like ICE where you really, and it's an incredibly difficult job, by the way, for these agents, and most of them signed up, the overwhelming majority in my experience signed up to make this country safer. So the idea, the idea of the agency itself makes tremendous sense. What concerns me is the manner in which the administration is deploying it. Now, of course, to be fair to ICE, it's not just ICE here. You have the U.S. Border Patrol. You have all these other federal agencies that are now part of this mass immigration effort. But the tactics that are being adopted, including, listen, it's highly unusual in law enforcement to promote that you're coming into an area to do a bunch of sweeps. There's generally not very many good reasons from a law enforcement perspective why you'd want to do that. Politically, I understand why that can be appealing. But when you do that, you create opportunities for protesters. Many of whom are just simply exercising their First Amendment rights to express their frustration. But there's some bad actors there, and you also put these agents in harm's way, thus elevating their tension and the anxiety within the officers. And all of that, in many ways, is a toxic combination, which increases the likelihood that incidents like this are going to occur.
I mean, just briefly, it seems to be a complete breakdown in trust between different law enforcement agencies, local police and ICE, but also the local community and then ICE.
Now, there's no doubt about that. And unfortunately, when the secretary comes out within hours of it without getting all the facts and says this was very clearly a good shooting, you only further that credibility gap. But you're absolutely right there. ICE is, during my time at ICE and during the duration of DHS, the greatest relationship that ICE has is with their state and local partners. And together, you can do a lot that makes the country safer. But unfortunately, we've seen that break down.
Okay, going to leave it there. John Stanwyck, thank you very much.
And we're now seeing new cell phone video captured by the ICE agent who shot a woman in Minneapolis on Wednesday. The video obtained by CNN provides a new first-person perspective of the deadly encounter. We do need to warn you, it is disturbing.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad for it. Show your face. I'm not mad. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Vice President J.D. Vance, who shared the video online earlier today, says it shows the officer was endangered, and DHS said the agent acted in self-defense, but the clip does not clearly show whether the vehicle made contact with the agent. The FBI is now investigating the shooting, as you may know, but Minnesota state leaders are pushing for a joint investigation. Today in Minneapolis, a moment of silence for Renee Nicole Good from families and educators, followed by calls for ICE to leave that state. And last night, protesters gathered here near the Galleria. Dozens of protesters marched down Post Oak Boulevard to amplify their message. In the next hour, another demonstration is supposed to begin. This one led by immigrants' rights nonprofit Fiel Houston is happening at Dunleavy Park in
to follow nationally. It continues to evolve and develop. We will get into some of the things we've heard now also in Portland, but the ICE-involved shooting and death in Minnesota continues to expand, more angles coming out, and our Asher Red is there giving us the latest. Good afternoon, Asher.
Well, good afternoon. We have new body cam, or not body cam, but rather cell phone footage. Fox has obtained this cell phone footage by the ICE officer who shot Renee Nicole Good. Take a look if you're able.
Show your face. I'm not mad. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former. You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
The FBI is leading this shooting probe, and they're not sharing any evidence with Minnesota investigators. Many state and local leaders are criticizing that decision because they don't think the feds can be trusted to stay impartial. But the DOJ is simply saying that this is a matter of jurisdiction. Now, Mayor Jacob Fry has been facing very sharp criticism from Republicans after he told ICE to, quote, get the F out of the city on Wednesday. But today he stood by those comments and is also calling on the feds to work with state investigators. Some of these state and local leaders say ICE officers, the ICE officer who shot and killed Renee Good should be arrested and charged. Homeland Security claims that Good was part of an ICE watch group that trains people to follow and monitor federal immigration operations. They also say she was blocking ICE vehicles with her car, and they want to get down to the bottom of who is funding and training these groups. Back to you.
Asher, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And as I've said over the last couple of days, this isn't going anywhere. So we will continue to touch base with you and others who follow it there in Minneapolis. Thank you very much.
Oh, this is far from over. Far from over. Here we go. Here's a little bonus clip for you, ladies and gentlemen.
The ICE agent who fatally shot and killed Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old unarmed mother in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of that ICE agent is Jonathon Ross. And no, I am not doxing this ICE agent. No, I am not putting him at harm of physical, threats of any kind. It is the DHS secretary herself, Kristi Noem, who stated publicly, straight out of the gate, that the ICE agent who was involved in the killing of Renee Good had himself been involved in a vehicle dragging event just months ago, last year in 2025. That was further confirmed by other members of the administration. It did not take a lot of cyber sleuthing to figure out and put two and two together that the ICE agent who was involved in that vehicle dragging incident in 2025 and that the ICE agent who killed Renee Nicole Good is Jonathon Ross. Based upon sworn courtroom testimony provided by Ross just last month in December of 2025 in the trial of the man who was accused of dragging him and assaulting him, we find out some background about Ross. So let's get into the details now. And again, this is from Ross's own sworn courtroom testimony last month in December of 2025. Jonathon Ross testifying that he was deployed to Iraq from 2004 to 2005 with the Indiana National Guard. And I apologize. I got ahead of myself. The charges that the criminal defendant was facing, Mr. Munoz Guatemala, that's his name, Munoz-Guatemala, was arrested and charged with assault on a federal officer with a dangerous or deadly weapon. Okay. He went to trial last month in front of a jury. He was found guilty, convicted. He's pending sentencing. All right. So, like I said, Jonathon Ross testifying he was deployed to Iraq from 2004 to 2005 with the Indiana National Guard. He served as a machine gunner on a gun truck as part of a combat patrol team. Ross testified he returned from Iraq in 2005, went to college, and joined the Border Patrol in 2007 near El Paso, Texas. He worked there until 2015, serving as a field intelligence agent gathering and analyzing information on cartels and drug and human smuggling. Ross testified he served as a deportation officer based in Minnesota since joining ICE in 2015. 10 years, I guess, with ICE then. He is assigned to fugitive operations, which means he is arresting, quote, higher value targets in the ICE region that includes Minneapolis. He's a team leader with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Yeah. Ross testifying during this trial that he is a firearms instructor.
And the Trump administration want to say
I'm going to say that again.
Renee
Ross testifying that he is a firearms instructor, an active shooter instructor, a field intelligence officer, and a member of the SWAT team. He attended the Border Patrol's Academy in New Mexico. He learned to speak Spanish. Okay. So back in June of last year, June 17th, in the Minneapolis suburb of Bloomington, Minnesota, he was the leader. He was the team lead for a group of ICE agents who went to arrest a man who was in the United States illegally. These agents activated emergency sirens and lights, instructing Munoz, Guatemala, to pull over. Ross pulled his car diagonally in front of Munoz, Guatemala, to force him to stop his car. Ross and an FBI agent identified themselves as police officers, according to Ross in his testimony during the trial. They pointed guns at Munoz, Guatemala, who raised his hands. Ross then approached Munoz, Guatemala's vehicle and ordered him to put it into park. Ross ordering the driver to lower his window all the way down and warning that if he didn't, he would break it. Ross testifying that he used a device called a, quote, spring-loaded window punch to break the rear driver's side window, and then Ross reached into the car to unlock the driver's door. Let's stop right now and let's reenact this for a second. Munoz, Guatemala has stopped his car. I'm assuming the ignition is still on, it's still running. Ross has approached after pulling a gun on the driver. Ross uses a spring-loaded window punch to take out, to destroy, to break the rear driver's side window and reaches in to be able to unlock the driver's side door. According to the trial testimony, Munoz, Guatemala drove off while Ross's arm was caught in the car, and Munoz, Guatemala accelerated the car, dragging Ross down the street the length of a football field in 12 seconds. Now, that's pretty traumatic. That's a lot. Ross, though, this is interesting, and I want to stay on this for a second with you guys, so stick with me. Ross fired his taser, striking Munoz, Guatemala with the taser prongs in the head, face, and shoulder. Munoz, Guatemala was not incapacitated by the taser. Eventually, Ross was knocked free of the vehicle by force after the driver drove onto the curb for a second time and back onto the street. Jonathon Ross's right arm was bleeding. An FBI agent applied a tourniquet. He got 20 stitches at the hospital after suffering multiple large cuts and abrasions as well to his knee, elbow, and face. Ross testifying during the trial, quote, "It was pretty excruciating pain." Now, that was from WBUR.org, a local news affiliate. And that also was from the Associated Press. Now, the New York Times, also looking at the court records for Munoz, Guatemala's case, acknowledging the same information I've just relayed to you. And by the way, 2 law enforcement officers have identified the ICE agent who killed Renee Good as Jonathon Ross, so there's no confusion about who it ended up being. Apparently, Munoz, Guatemala is Guatemalan, who had been convicted of sexual abuse in Minnesota and was illegally in the United States. Now, further details from the New York Times says that Ross fired his taser at Munoz, and Munoz was shocked twice with the taser. And again, that the cut to his right arm required 20 stitches. Now, here's some details from the New York Times that WBOR did not have. Munoz, Guatemala called 911 to say that he had been assaulted by an immigration agent. A phone call that ultimately helped officers find and arrest him about a mile away. Munoz, Guatemala stating that he didn't know that was an actual law enforcement officer that was trying to stop him and take him. I mean, look, I do not condone violence at all. I don't condone violence against law enforcement at all. I am a former prosecutor. I am pro good apple law enforcement, right? I don't call for defunding the police, none of that. But there is a climate that has been created by ICE, CBP, and federal agents of fear among people, immigrants and citizens alike, right? Undocumented migrants and citizens alike, who don't know if they're being legitimately stopped by legitimate law enforcement because they're either masked or they're not wearing identification, right? I don't know the specifics about this with Munoz, Guatemala's case, but I do know that that is the defense that was raised. And again, I want to make it explicitly clear, just in case people are not understanding me. I do not condone violence against law enforcement in any capacity. But I wanted to talk about this with you guys because I want to play for you what J.D. Vance had to say about ICE agent Jonathon Ross, the man who fatally murdered Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis. Take a listen to what Vance had to say because I have some thoughts about it on the other side.
What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?
Okay. So J.D. Vance is basically saying, and it makes sense, right, that Ross would be kind of spooked, right, having gone through this experience of having been dragged with his arm, being stitched up and everything, right? Did you ever stop and think, though, that maybe it would make ICE agent Jonathon Ross predisposed to being trigger happy and using his gun instead of his taser? Did anybody stop and think about that? Because in the instance where he's being actively dragged by someone right?
But was he dragged?
He uses his taser. He didn't use his gun. Even though he had exited his vehicle with a gun when he initially approached Mr. Munoz Guatemala's car, he doesn't use the gun to stop Munoz Guatemala from dragging him 100 yards down the street. He uses a taser. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a betting woman, but I'm going to bet that if Jonathon Ross had used a taser in Minneapolis, Renee Nicole Good would not be dead. End of story. Finally, there's a vitamin company that understands women's specific needs, because whether I'm dealing with aging gracefully or just trying to feel my best every day, Parallel has something specifically designed for where I am right now. No more generic multivitamins. We finally have daily powders from Parallel that do more than just the basics. Parallel's powder line is amazing because it's not just your typical protein or greens powders. These are doctor formulated with women in mind. But honestly, anyone could take them because you're getting multiple supplements in one thoughtful, amazingly flavored powder. And here's why I trust Parallel more than any other supplement brand. They're founded by an OBGYN, and all of their ingredients are backed by research. Like you, I want products that are made by people who understand women's bodies. Parallel is the first OBGYN-founded vitamin company. Actual doctors who specialize in women's health created these formulas based on the latest research and their own clinical insights. We're talking targeted nutrition, folks, for every stage of a woman's hormonal life. Menstrual health, perimenopause, just daily wellness. And these powders, they include protein, electrolytes, sleep support, and greens powder. So here's an exclusive offer for all of you listeners out there. If you order right now, you can get 20% off your first order with the following code: FANG, my last name, PHANG. New customers, 20% off your first order with the code FANG, PHANG. Go to parallelhealth.com. That's PERELELHEALTH.com, PERELELHEALTH.com. So, ICE agent Jonathon Ross sounds predisposed to me because of the trauma that he experienced through no fault of his own, right? In that incident last year with Mr. Munoz Guatemala's case, he's predisposed to fear, to trauma, so he's going to use his gun. He's not going to use his taser. Here's another thing I want to point out to you. Did you notice as well in the videos from the bystander footage from the killing of Nicole Good, none of the other officers on scene, and there are at least 4 that we can visibly see in and around the immediate vicinity of Renee's car, including the officer agent who had his right hand on her door handle on the driver's side and his left hand reaching in. Notice none of them pulled a gun, none of them pulled a taser, none of them pulled a weapon. The only one who pulled a weapon was ICE agent Jonathon Ross. And this is after he was sauntering around the back of Renee's SUV, holding a cell phone, recording God knows what. Still haven't also gotten confirmation, people, that Ross's body cam was on and operational at the time. I think that question needs to be answered immediately. But of course, we're not going to get those answers if we're Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, because we've been booted and frozen out of the investigation, courtesy of the feds. It's a whole other conversation. So, ICE agent Jonathon Ross is in the back of the vehicle. There is new footage that has been released that we can now see that it is Renee Nicole Good's wife, partner, trying to get back into the passenger side of the SUV. Next to her is Jonathon Ross. Again, no exigency, no urgency, no fear, nothing. Even though that car is on, it is idling. Renee is in the driver's seat. She's now waved other cars to go ahead of her. And it is obvious that if her partner is trying to get into the car, what are they going to do? They're going to leave.
They take it personal.
There's a Harbor Freight store in your neighborhood.
They're not using the vehicle to ram and kill law enforcement. Okay. So Ross is the only one who pulls a weapon, and he doesn't pull the taser. He pulls a gun and he fires 3 shots, killing Renee Nicole Good. The other thing is this. If you're going to use and you're going to escalate to lethal force, the use of force matrix, and by the way, putting aside the violations of the training and the policies that deal with use of lethal force, you can use lethal force in defense of yourself and others for fear of serious bodily injury or death. There were no other ICE agents that were located to the right of the trajectory of Renee's SUV. What do I mean by that? Meaning it was just Jonathon Ross to the left driver's side front panel of the SUV and other ICE agents and law enforcement to Renee's left and to the back down the street. There were no other law enforcement agents down the street, right? So who is Jonathon Ross protecting when she's leaving? When Renee is driving her SUV with the wheels turned to the right away from law enforcement, when she's trying to get away because she's been ordered to leave, one of those, or more than one of those law enforcement agents ordered her to leave. She was trying to leave. She waved, she moved her car forward, and then she got cut off by a departing vehicle, right? And then she was waiting. She's waving other cars to leave. She's leaving. So who is Ross protecting? He can't say that he was protecting other officers, and no one can't say that. Trump can't say that, and Vance cannot say that. Nobody can say that he was protecting other law enforcement officers because there were none of them down the way. I'm going to play one more thing that J.D. Vance said. Take a listen. I'll give you some thoughts.
Nobody debates that. I can believe that her death is a tragedy while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe, against our law enforcement officers.
No. Not only did J.D. Vance lie throughout the entirety of this soapbox, ridiculous monologue that he did, that was an insult to the intelligence of the American people, because we can believe what we see with our own eyes. But no, this is not a tragedy that was of Renee Nicole Good's own making. This was a tragedy with criminal and civil implications. The civil implications are a no-brainer. A civil lawsuit is a no-fucking-brainer. The criminal case, as I've mentioned a couple of minutes ago, now being significantly hampered because the U.S. attorney in Minnesota, say his name, Dan Rosen, Trump appointee with no prior prosecution experience whatsoever, no criminal experience whatsoever, right? This guy is now making decisions about investigating a police-involved or an officer-involved shooting. The U.S. attorney in Minnesota, Dan Rosen, and the FBI, the feds, the Trump administration, the Trump DOJ, they are freezing out the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. I will tell you, though, the Hennepin County District Attorney, she's made it explicitly clear, and I want to read what she had to say because I think it's important for you guys to get some comfort in knowing this. Mary Moriarty, the Hennepin County DA, saying that her office is, quote, exploring all options to ensure a state-level investigation can continue and that they're speaking to our local partners on paths forward. She's not giving up. Attorney General Keith Ellison from Minnesota is not giving up. The Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey not giving up. They are not giving up. We're not giving up. A fulsome, legitimate, clean, thorough investigation must be conducted of the murder of Renee Nicole Good. We owe it to her. We owe it to her family. We owe it to her memory. We owe it to transparency. And we owe it to the American people. Because then we just had a shooting in Portland, did we not? Let's talk about that very quickly, because that is just outrageous to me. Because, oh my God, look at that. Yet another allegation that, according to law enforcement, that a vehicle driven...
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
A vehicle with a passenger of a, quote, Venezuelan illegal alien affiliated with the transnational Tren de Aragua prostitution ring. Border Patrol agents identified themselves to the vehicle occupants. The driver tried to run them over. Fearing for his life and safety, an agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with the passenger fleeing the scene. And yet later on, it took the driver of that car to call 911 for medical help because nobody bothered to call anybody for medical help. And both people had been shot. So... the Border Patrol agent fired one defensive shot and managed to strike both of them. People, nobody's going to believe what comes out of any investigation that's spearheaded solely by the feds when it deals with Renee Nicole Good's murder or when it deals with what's happening in Portland, the FBI claiming they're now investigating it. Please, 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 please. For the sanctity and the decency of this country, the state and local authorities must be partners in every sense of the word with any investigation that happens. Alrighty. People, share this video, as well as the one I did yesterday that kind of did the breakdown of how Trump, Noam, and others continue to lie about the facts and the events as they rolled out chronologically on that date when Renee Nicole Good was killed. Subscribe, please, and make sure that we continue to get the truth out, because the truth matters. I always say to you, knowledge is power. I am empowering you. We are empowered together. Be mad, be outraged, demand accountability. Katie Fang here. We launched the Katie Fang News.
All right, I'm out of here. My job. Peace out. We'll get warmed up. We'll do some more tonight.